Corded Books presents Beyond the Board, the untold story of the world's most daring big wave surfer, by Gabeira, narrated by the author. For anyone who has ever crossed my path, I thank you for being part of my journey. I hope I changed you in even a small way, because you all changed me. Chapter 1. I was a good kid for most of my childhood, I swear. But if you had met me as a preteen, you might not know it. Things had started to unravel by the age of 11. Looking back, I can see that it was surfing that prevented me from going over the edge and down a truly chaotic life path. But if you'd asked me back then what saved me, I might have said it was a boy. I first noticed Vicente after school one day, freshman year. Once classes were dismissed, we'd all stream outside onto the street to talk. I'd spotted him several times through the huge crowd of students, shouting hellos and planning what to get up to next. He was always sunburned and had these cute rosy cheeks and floppy brown hair that grew long behind his ears. He went to the Colégio Teresiano, I soon learned, which was down the block from my school, on Marquês de São Vicente Street in the Gávea area of Rio de Janeiro. A friend told me he was a surfer and that he lived in a nice house nearby. Somehow, this meager detail spawned endless fantasy. I had so many questions, most of which I didn't say aloud but obsessed over in my mind. What did he like? Where did he spend weekends? How did he learn to surf? What did he like besides surfing? And most of all, would he be interested in me the way I was in him? Finally, I got brave enough to say hi. We chat casually after school, and I started to actually ask these questions aloud. I couldn't believe he was willing to hang out with me, but hey, I guess my willingness to focus entirely on him was probably entertaining. He told me about his surfing, and it was easy to segue into hanging out from there. It all seems so seamless when I look back. One minute, I was on the outside, and then I was in. We were dating, and I was part of his crew. He was my first boyfriend, my first taste of love. I wanted to be around him always. I was completely swept away by him and his lifestyle. I was 14 then, but more mature than you'd expect. I liked hanging out with older friends, and Vicente was a few years older than me, so the relationship suited me well. It gave shape and meaning to my life, which I had been sorely needing. See, a few years before I met Vicente, and through him discovered surfing, my parents had sat me and my older sister Tammy down on the white couch in our apartment in Ipanema and told us that Dad would be moving into a flat nearby. I remember this day so vividly, the sounds, the smells, what the air felt like. On the street below, cars were honking as though it were still a normal afternoon, and I just sat there, trying to make sense of the strange news. I experienced an almost physical pain, a sadness deeper than I'd ever known. That afternoon changed the course of my life. At 11 years old, this was my first real trauma. Everything I thought I knew about my life was shattering. I loved and admired my father, and I knew his nature. If he was not living with us, then the distance between us would grow. He was a workaholic and an idealist. Still is. The kind of person who lives in his thoughts. Very driven, his mind often elsewhere in books and ideas, and at the Congress in Brasilia, where he was a member for more than 20 years. Until then, we'd had a nice middle-class lifestyle, but both my parents downgraded their living situations after separating. Both moved on quickly too, which left me emotionally spinning. My father was living in hotels, and I soon realized he'd already started dating his chief of staff, although he wouldn't admit it. To this day, he's secretive about how that relationship started. After the divorce, my need for change became the one constant. Tommy had a steady and consistent personality, but I was different. I frequently switched schools. My childhood education was strict, a very good.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.